Alright guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. I am Dylan from FieldStrengthAthletics.com. I promised you guys last week that we would be going over my programming to get ready for the Pacific Northwest Strongman Games. So before we get into the programming, let's go ahead and take a look at the events. I know we went over them last video, but it's important to get some of these details. So when we go to the open divisions, we have event 1, which is the double overhand beam deadlift. Event 2 is Atlas stone load carries. Event 3 is tire flip sled push frame carry. Event 4 is a log clean and press reps for 1 minute. And event 5 is the Conan's wheel for max distance carry. So one thing that we'll notice here when we look at the events is we have a heavy overhead press. We have heavy stones, which is a lot like a front squat. And our deadlift is going to be a max, but it's not going to be a true max deadlift. The double overhand on the beam deadlift is going to be a rather light deadlift, and so we need to program accordingly. All right, so now that we know what the events are, last week we went over what the weights are. If you guys want to recover or re-go over some of those weights, I'll leave the link in the description above, and I'll leave a little card above for you guys to look at as well. So now that we know those, let's go ahead and get into the programming. So here we have the next 4 weeks in the programming. Well, actually, week 1 and week 2 here are the previous 2 weeks of the program I was working on to get ready for a competition. And then week 3 and week 4 are actually the adjustments that I've made to get ready for this particular competition. So if you guys have watched my videos before on programming for a better and stronger deadlift, you'll know that I like to do a lot of volume or high frequency deadlifts and presses in order to get those numbers up. In order to accommodate with some of the percentages, we do a rotating intensity throughout the month, so that way not one week is going to be too hard and not one week is going to be too light. So you'll see in week 1 we have our day 1 3 lifts: deadlift, overhead press, stone, AMRAP lifts. Day 2 is squat, bench, and pull-ups. Day 3 is axle deadlift, circus dumbbell, and farmer's carries. And then day 4 is reverse hyper, tempo bench, and pendlay rows. You'll notice that the deadlift on day 1 is a rather high intensity, kind of following Matt Wenning's 5-3-1 program for that. And then when we get to our lower deadlift, so our deadlift later in the week on day 3, we match that with our RPE 8. So it's a medium intensity to match the high intensity of the deadlifts before. And then we have our tertiary or third deadlift variation, which is the reverse hyper, our lower back exercises. And this one is RPE 7, which is 1 RPE less than the axle deadlift before, which is lighter than the high intensities of the first deadlift. You'll see that same kind of work going on with the overhead press throughout the week, and the bench press on the last day. That's kind of how I like to train. That's how I got a lot of my numbers to go up. Now, if you guys want to go ahead and just take a screenshot of this program, feel free. Just count it as another free program. I don't care. But I'm just going to kind of talk and communicate what I'm doing. So, like I said before, we have our rotating intensities. So this week here is going to be really, really heavy on the deadlifts, about medium on the squats, and the overhead press is really light. Okay, when we go into week 2, since the deadlift was super heavy, high intensity, we go into a deload for our main deadlift, and then we're going to our medium for our overhead press. Our squat is going really heavy, and then the RPEs match. So since we're doing a deload on the deadlift, we're going to contrast that with an RPE 9 on the axle deadlift. Now remember, since this is an axle deadlift, it's going to be heavy, but it's not going to be a high number as compared to my normal deadlift. And the reverse hyper matches that, which is the third day, which goes to RPE 8. And you'll kind of see that carry on throughout the weeks. Now we get to week 3, which this is when we made our big shift. We learned about the meet, so we've made a change. We have a couple of things that we need to train for. Instead of doing regular barbell overhead press like we did in weeks 1 and 2, we're now switching to a log press to get ready for our competition, which has a log press AMRAP. Um, Now, I'm going to keep this in the same format because when I look at the events, nothing is a heavy one rep lift that is an absolute true max. Everything is either max reps per minute or it's last man standing where grip is the last variation. So we're keeping our AMRAPs, we're keeping with our 5-3-1 rotating intensity program. Um, and now you'll see that we switched the overhead press to log press. We changed the stone lift AMRAP to sandbag over bar. The reason why we've gone to sandbag is because we have heavier sandbags available. We do not currently have heavier stones available, so we've made that change in particular. When we carry on throughout the week, you'll see that when we get to the actual deadlift, we've kept that around because we are doing a beam deadlift, which is a grip limiting deadlift. The closest thing we have to that is our axle. And now you'll see that I've made sure to point out that it's double overhand, no alternated grip on this to help train the grip, how we're going to use it in competition. And then we're going to be ramping up the RPEs over the next 4 weeks. Now we've also switched out the circus dumbbell to seated overhead press. Once again, since we are doing an overhead log press for reps, we need to get better at using both hands in our lifts. So we're switching out the circus dumbbell to seated overhead press. We're doing seated to keep the back happy because of all the deadlifts that we're doing. Farmer's carries we've kept around. For 40 feet, we're going to be going rather heavy with this. This is the closest thing that, once again, that we have to the frame carry. And it will carry over pretty straightforward. And then the last major switch that we made from weeks 1 and 2 to week 3 and 4 is we switched from reverse hyper to the good mornings. This is just a shift that I like to do every 2 to 4 weeks. Is we'll change which one we're doing for our tertiary work for our deadlifts, switching from reverse hypers to good mornings, or doing RDLs and stiff leg deadlifts, depending on how we're feeling. And now that we're about 6 to 8 weeks away from competition, we're going to be doing more of the good mornings and reverse hypers than we would be doing, say, RDLs and stiff leg deadlifts, just to keep the recovery high and keep the breakdown low. And then we can continue that all the way through week 4. Now, we still have another 4 weeks after this last week where all we're going to do is we're going to clean reset all the way back to week 1, and we'll increase our estimated maxes or our estimated numbers just like you would with the winning 5-3-1 program. It's just we are rotating. We had different days have different intensities. Like I said before, the deadlift week 1 has the high intensity, the overhead press has the light intensity, the squat has medium, and then as they rotate, you'll have one each week that'll have a deload intensity. As we go through, we'll clean the slate, start again, slightly heavier weights, all the way up until we have to do a deload week, prepping for the competition, and then we hit the competition. I hope this helped. What I want to do here is I'm going to zoom out. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this programming, it might be a little granular, but if you guys want this program or you want this spreadsheet, just go ahead and send me an email to fieldstrengthathletics.com, or check out the website fieldstrengthathletics.com. You can contact me there. And the email again is fieldstrengthandathletics@gmail.com. If you guys want this hard copy, I am selling the program. And if you want a little bit more personalized for whatever your meet is, you can hit the same email, and I'll still send you the program. One thing else that I really wanted to point out here is that you'll notice that when we make our transition, even though we don't have an actual deadlift, we have the beam deadlift where the grip's going to be limiting, but since we don't have your standard deadlift in this meet, it doesn't mean that I'm forgetting to do those in my week. I'm still focusing on increasing my deadlift, so I still have the traditional conventional pull deadlift from the floor going on to this program. Now, this might not be particular to the meet that I have coming up now, but I need my deadlift to get stronger for meets in the future, so that is still going to be a secondary or even tertiary goal with this program, is having my deadlift still increase. Alright guys, I hope you liked this video, and I hope this gave you some clarity on things that you can do if you're writing your own program for a strongman meet, or if you're doing an appropriate thing for your next strongman meet and taking into account all the different events and how they're going to work you and how they're going to task you, making the adjustments that are appropriate for that meet, and making sure that you are continuously getting stronger for those. If you guys like this video, give it a big old thumbs up. Subscribe down below. Please share this with anybody that might be interested. We're here on the fieldstrengthathletics.com website. I recommend that you guys all go check this out, get to understand what we are, the services that we provide. This is a pretty fun project that we've been working on. Otherwise, guys, go out, do something great. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Peace.